I recall my mother once telling me a story about two women chatting over the back fence. They were talking about the fundraising efforts within the local church. "Did you hear how much Mrs. Smith gave?" said one to the other. "She must be very wealthy." Her neighbour wisely replied, "Not wealthy, just generous." Now, over the last few weeks, I've been looking at the Beatitudes, which are those comments of Jesus about the blessings that flow into people's lives because of circumstance and attitudes. Matthew 5, 6 and 7. Now Jesus is turning his focus toward living for God. And in Matthew 6, Jesus continues his teaching and he speaks about giving. We don't always want to hear that. But most of those listening were probably doing the things that Jesus talked about to be holy, or at least to appear to be holy. Hear the words of Jesus from Matthew 6, verses 1 to 4. "Watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose your reward from your Father in heaven. When you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and in the streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth, they have received all the reward they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you." Now notice that Jesus begins with "watch out." Some versions might say "take heed," perhaps others "be careful." Immediately this should catch our attention. Like if you go to a house and there's a sign out the front gate saying "beware of the dog," your senses are heightened and you're looking everywhere for the dog. Jesus is saying beware, because something that we are doing or might do could cause some harm. Then he says, do not do your good deeds publicly. Not, "Hey everyone, look over here, I'm about to give some money," real money too. It's a lot of money. No, don't do that. These people act as though they're being holy. They act as though they are righteous. They act as though they are followers of God. But in reality, they're not. They're just hypocrites. In the words of Jesus, they have their reward. And what is their reward? Well, they have the approval of people, but not the approval of God. Let me tell you, that is not a good trade. Jesus goes on, "When you give to the poor, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing." Did you hear that? Jesus says when you give, not if you give. Giving is an important part of our faith journey. In fact, the giving or the generosity theme is woven right throughout the scriptures, so we would be wise to listen and what's more, respond. If we don't give, we're not being faithful to God's word. But there's more. We are promised a blessing when we give sincerely and with the right attitude. Listen to the promise in Luke 6:38. Great verse. "Give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, running over and poured into your lap." The amount you give will determine the amount that you receive, the amount that you get back. Now, don't just give to get back though, because attitude is important. But here's the point. We are expected to give. Jesus says, "But when you give to the poor, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing." Challenging words. We're being reminded that we should give quietly, not to look for accolades or that old pat on the back, just to go and do it. The outcome, according to Jesus, your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Now, I was taught a long time ago that I can never outgive God, and I can testify today that statement is true. We have a faithful God, a mighty God. And remember this always. We are blessed to be a blessing. Have a wonderful week.